friends. Welcome back to this Pick a Card Tarot reading. I'm JP, and this is Juno Drome Tarot. Before we jump into everything, I just want to say we've just reached an incredible marker. We are now past 900 subscribers, so I just want to thank everyone who has subscribed to this channel so far. If you haven't, please do. I am going to be doing an awesome thing here. If you go down to the description section of this video, you will see a link to a free reading raffle or draw. So click the link, put in your email and your information, and enter to win a free reading from me. Just to thank everybody so much for watching these videos. So for all of you who've been with me for the 2 years now, a year and a bit. It's been a year and a half maybe that I started this channel. So much thanks to all of you. So enter in to win a free reading from me. So anyway, today's reading is going to be all about what do you need to know right now. So this is just a quick basic reading just for today, just so I can get something up this week and get this out there. In a moment, I'm going to show you 3 different piles you can choose from. We have pile number 1, pile number 2, and pile number 3. They're kind of reverse for you watching now. But anyway, you'll see in a second. Just go to the description section of this video now to find the link to your reading, as well as find that link to enter into a free reading for me. One lucky viewer will get one. If you don't get this round, when we reach 1,000 subscribers, I think I'm going to be giving out a couple of readings, as well as a bunch of fun, amazing things for me. So stay tuned for that for sure. Please subscribe if you haven't already. The quicker we get to 1,000, the more free things I'm going to give out, the more awesome stuff we're going to do. So anyway, thank you so much for tuning in, and I will see you in your reading. See ya. Hey there, pile number 1. Welcome to your reading. So you chose the pile with this pile of books with a plant on it. Pretty cute card there. I really love this deck. This is the How to Be a Wildflower deck by Katie Daisy. She is based out of Bend, Oregon, which is a very beautiful place, Bend, Oregon. It's where I got all my obsidian, really close to Bend, Oregon. I went out and did a trip a while ago. It was pretty great. So, we're going to get right into this. This is just a basic what do you need to hear right now? Messages from spirit, messages from your guides, messages from whoever. With this, we're going to read the quote on the back of this at the very end of the reading, but with this pile of books, I'm definitely getting the feeling of like studying, that knowledge comes from growth, right? It's like this connection between growth and knowledge here with the plants. We've got a little butterfly or a moth there. So there's a sort of transformation that's being implied here that's coming from learning new things, coming to another understanding of something maybe. Maybe it's been a long time coming where you've been learning new things. You've been learning a new way of approaching life. You've been learning a new way to see things, and that the more that you do that, now you're starting to bloom from all of this learning that you've done. I do feel a sense of that this isn't a new thing, or it's something you've been working on. So we've got a bunch of different kinds of cards today, and I just kind of chose random ones, so we'll see what we get. First comes one card from the 1JJ Swiss deck. Is La Mort, death. So interesting. With the death card, right? Death in the tarot, it's not as scary as it looks, right? Death can seem quite frightening if we don't know what to look for. But in reality, in the tarot, death talks about change. It talks about the ending of a cycle and the beginning of a new cycle. It can talk about coming to the conclusion of a situation or a time or or a way of being and the beginning of a new cycle, a new understanding of things, a new way to perceive the world and to perceive yourself even moving forward. And so with this coming right out, I feel like it's like the end of this cycle that's here for you has come from you putting in a lot of energy into it, right? With all of these books piling up here, it's like study. You've been really working on yourself. You've been really working on your abilities. You've been working on your understanding of life, in the school of life, right? You've been working really hard. And you're at the point where you're ready to move on into something else. Like I was saying, that butterfly symbolism there can talk about that sort of transformation, right? The butterfly starts as a caterpillar and then it goes into its cocoon and it literally, becomes a pile of goop, right? It totally disintegrates and it's no longer a caterpillar, and then it reforms its entire being and becomes a butterfly after that. So this death is that rebirth of the butterfly as well. Next up, we have one card from the Wild Unknown Tarot, and that is the Judgment card. Wow. Okay, so this is some really powerful imagery that's coming out for this reading. So what you need to hear right now is that you might be coming to an end of a cycle in your life, and so now you're at the point where you have some time to reflect on what's happened. With that Judgment here, it talks about judgment is all about, it's not just having an ability to reflect on the things that have happened in your life, but also coming to a clearer picture of the things that have occurred as well. It's like you gain a further understanding of things where you start to notice the bigger picture of what happened. So whereas in the past, you might have been really lost in the small details of things and not really know, you might not have known sort of how why things happened the way they did, or why did they have to happen that way, or you were really stuck in the perspective of, oh my gosh, I can't believe this happened to me and it was so terrible and all a lot, whatever the old story was. Well, the Judgment is coming in to say, like, well, now you're kind of at the point where maybe you haven't thought about those things that have happened in a while. Maybe you reached a point in your past, when you picked up these books, right, where you were like, you know what, I can't, there's nothing I can do to change this in the short term. So I'm just going to work on myself in the long term and just try to put this out of my mind. Well, maybe now you're at this sort of conclusion point where it's like you're going to start to look at those things again that you haven't been looking at. And you'll start to see with this new perspective that's come from you really putting in a bunch of work and changing the way you do things, the way you understand things, the way you know things. Now that you're in this new place, you'll get it's like you have a better perspective on it where you can see from a larger picture. So like now, whereas before you might have only been thinking about, what happened to you in a certain situation and, oh my God, I can't believe they did that to me. Maybe now you'll start to see like, oh, well, actually I can kind of see like that person, they kind of showed me way early on that they were that way, or they were showing these patterns a long time before I started to really consciously look at that. And maybe a part of me saw that the whole time and I just didn't really do anything in the moment, and now I can see, oh yeah, I can see they kind of told me exactly who they were right at the beginning. It doesn't have to be about another person. It could also be like, oh man, like in the past, I just couldn't shake the fact that I felt so hurt about everything that happened to me. But now I can see that, maybe this stuff that happened was good in a certain sense because it led me down this path to where I am now. And I'm so thankful to be where I am in this moment that, maybe I couldn't have come to these places without having to go through these sort of trials and tribulations, right? Like maybe I had to go through something kind of like this in order to even find my way to this place. And so now I can see from that perspective that it's going to be all right, right? Like I can see like, oh, okay, yeah, what I went through was terrible or was challenging or was not the best, but ultimately I can understand now that I'm kind of happy I went through, like, I'm not happy that the terrible things happened to me, but I'm happy that I was able to gain this new perspective. And I'm so thankful to have that perspective on life and on my situation now. You know what I mean? That kind of thing. So let's take a look at some of these other cards that we have. Now I have a whole big pile here. Well, it's only three. Three cards from the um, Smith Waite deck, my favorite Rider Waite Smith deck. We've got the Lovers, okay, the Queen of Swords, and the Star. Wow, okay. And I don't read reversals just because I feel like they complicate things in general readings, and it's just easier to get the upright reading energies. So, with this Lovers card, I feel like you are now. I do feel like there was some kind of relationship dynamics. It doesn't have to be with a partner. It could have been with a parent or with a friend or with something, just because that's just where I was going when I was channeling all that information. So I feel like, like I said, with that judgment here, it's like you have a better understanding on why maybe you were in codependent relationships, or you were in situations with other people that weren't the best, or you went through certain circumstances with people that weren't, well, let's just say they ended in pain, right? And so, like, now that you see that, you also can see, like, maybe you've been alone for a while, and you've been afraid to enter into a relationship with somebody, or you've been afraid to enter into, you know getting really close with a lot of people because you went through such terrible and challenging things with others, and that's totally fine. I feel like now though, especially with the Queen of Swords here, it's like you know how to cut off that energy that's not good for you, right? It's like you've learned how to recognize the people, the situations, the circumstances that are not good for you. You know how to see those now. And so now that you have that awareness, you don't have to be afraid of other people. And in fact, now you can start letting others and letting yourself back into your life, right? You don't have to be afraid of yourself either. That's the big thing with this Lovers card I'm seeing too. It's like maybe you lost trust and faith in yourself because you're like, well, I I I experienced all these painful relationships with people who were terrible, and I don't know if I can trust myself to find the right person. I don't know if I can trust myself to find somebody who's going to be safe for me. But you can, right? Like, you can trust yourself, because not only did you get yourself out of those situations with other people, but with this, with this study, with this learn, with this growth, it's like you you worked so hard to rebuild yourself on your own. And since you did all that work, you now are in the place where, you can see that not so great people. You can see them a mile away. You can feel that energy before you're even around them, or you're just around them for a little bit, and those red flags pop up, and you're looking for them now. You see them and you're like, "Ooh, I don't know about that." Well, because you have that ability, now you don't have to worry so much about, is this person going to pull one over on me? Am I even going to be able to recognize good people for myself? And yada, yada, yada. You don't have to worry so much about that stuff, because you are able to recognize those things now. You are able to find people who are good for you versus people who aren't now. And so trust yourself, really. And especially with that star coming in here too, the Queen of Swords is that cutoff energy, right? You can cut people out of your life. You're not afraid to do that anymore. And so, like, with that star coming in, it's like, no, you have the power to let in beautiful, wonderful people into your life. And you don't have to allow yourself you don't have to allow fear to dictate you from being able to fully open up your heart to people again, right? You can open your heart to people. You don't have to open your heart to everyone to open your heart to the right people, right? Like, now you know how to differentiate and distinguish. And so I feel like with this, this death energy here with that judgment, it's sort of like what's ending for you is having to be so afraid of people, because you now know how to recognize people who aren't so great. And like, you also know that you have the power to say no, right? You can just walk away. Whereas before, a part of that, terrible relationships that and codependency and, not so great stuff that happened, a part of it comes from being afraid to say no to somebody, being afraid to walk away from somebody, being afraid to move on. And I don't think you have that fear anymore. I don't think that you're so afraid that you're going to get stuck in a situation with somebody because you're not afraid to say, you know what, this isn't working, and I'm going to just go now, right? Like you're okay and comfortable saying that. So because of that, um, just try out letting people in, like use your discretion. You don't have to open up 100% to everybody right away, right? You can take your time with it. Like, oh, this person seems interesting. Let me see if I can get to know them a little bit. Oh, okay, actually, I don't know about that person. I'm going to just walk away. And okay, I did that and I'm still fine and everything's fine. And oh, here's another person. Oh, wow, this person's great. Oh, man, this person is now my best friend, and I'm so thankful to have them in my life. It's like that kind of thing. So, yeah, so we've got one final card, which comes from this animal deck, and it's the raven or the crows. Ravens and crows are very similar. Um, they're sort of very cunning, very, very cunning birds, right? They're very smart birds. So, I think you are being encouraged here, and especially remember the books, you have the books here too, to remember just how cunning and smart you really are, right? Like, the raven can get out of any situation, and they're kind of mischievous, right? They can be mischievous, but I don't necessarily see that for you in this situation. I see it's talking about the cunning aspect of the crow, right? And just how intelligent and smart they are, and the fact that they can just dodge anything that's coming their way, right? There are crows who, they're able to, if they need to open up something like a nut or something like that, they will bring it to traffic and drop it in front of a car and let the car run it over and then pick it up, right? So they're very intelligent, very, very smart birds and animals in general. And so I feel like, you're being encouraged to trust and have faith in your own intelligence, right? In your own ability to recognize situations that aren't so great and that are great. And, don't let a fear of ending up in a bad situation again keep you from being in any situation, right? Just because, like, not going and putting yourself out there is also a choice. And I think that's important to remember that. Sometimes we forget that, we think that not doing anything is um, is not a choice, right? We're so afraid of choosing. Well, should I do this? Should I do that? I'll just do nothing because I don't know. Well, that's also a choice, and so it's important to remember that like non-action is also an action. It's just the action is choosing not to do something, right? So it's like don't be in that fear space, don't allow fear to keep you from living a beautiful, wonderful, happy life because you deserve that. And I feel like spirit's coming in to say, it's time to recognize that you do deserve happiness and that you do deserve beautiful, wonderful relationships with others and with yourself, and that it's okay um, to do that, to put yourself out there and make that happen. So, anyway, we've got one final message here that was on the back of this card at the beginning, and it says, "If you have a garden and a library, you have everything you need." And it's a quote from Cicero, and I think that's great. So, with that books as well, it's like, maybe look towards, some of your, if you like fiction at all, look towards any inspirations you might have from fiction in this, right? Are there any characters who you find deeply inspiring, and start to ask yourself, well, what is it about that character that I find so inspiring and that I love? Because maybe that's just me recognizing a latent or inner quality within myself that I actually have that wants to be expressed, and maybe that's a quality that it's time for me to put myself out there and follow through with, because that could help me move forward. So anyway, pile number one, that's my reading for you. I hope that it resonates. If you did not watch the intro, we've recently reached 900 subscribers this week, in between videos, and that's so incredible. I want to thank everyone who has subscribed as a gift to my wonderful viewers. If you go down to the description section of this video, you will find a link to enter into a drawing for a free tarot reading from me. It'll be a half an hour reading, one of my video recording readings. So we'll talk a little bit, and I'll get to see if you have any questions or if you want things general, and then I will record a personal tarot reading for you specifically if you win the drawing. So you can find that if you want to purchase a reading from me. They are available on the website as well. You can find all of that at junodrum.com. And feel free to check out the Instagram as well. I've been posting some regular things there too. That's at Juno Drum Tarot. Anyway, pile number 1, thank you so much for tuning in, and I hope you have a wonderful day, and I will see you later. Bye. Hi there, pile number 2. Welcome to your reading. You chose the pile with this awesome daisy. It's a little pink daisy. So cute. I think that daisies are very, very cute flowers. And so I think that they represent happiness to me. So it's just a symbol of spring, but it's also a symbol of happiness, and with that spring energy, that's the sort of rebirth and emergence. I know we're entering into fall, but fall. If you're in the southern hemisphere, though, you're entering into spring. So for some of you, it is about to be spring, but for us here in the north, it's fall. But I still feel like there is this sort of energy of beautiful spring-like happiness entering into your life. So this is going to be messages for what you need to hear right now. They're general messages from Spirit, so take them with a grain of salt. Thank you so much for tuning in. And yeah, there's a quote on the back of this that we'll read at the end, but we'll just pull a bunch of cards and try to get channel some messages for you today. So we've got strength here. Wow. And I do recognize there's a bunch of flowers on her dress here. So, more flower energy here with that spring-like strength card. And then we have the 6 of Pentacles. Interesting. So there's some interesting symbols of balancing here. It's very powerful balancing energy coming in. So whatever's going on in your life right now, I think that there is a call towards balancing things, making sure that you are balancing and being in your own power. That's kind of what I'm hearing from this strength card in particular. But you see, there's the yin, the infinity symbol here, with the on top of her head. And I said yin, and I was gonna say yin yang energy, but yin specifically is the divine feminine. So I feel like maybe the strength card can talk about aspects of balancing between the divine feminine and divine masculine symbols. So actually very similar to a yin and yang symbol. I never thought of this card in that way, but that's kind of fun that that's popping into my head right now, because you have both. Strength contains both the passive and active aspects of reality that any other aspect does. But this card in particular shows that, because you have the lion here representing the yang energy, or that sort of charging forth masculine energy, the sort of the attack, but it's being calmed here and tamed by the feminine energy here, represented by the woman in the dress with the flowers. And so I feel like maybe, because we have the flower right off the bat, and I do feel that there's a big message here that you need to make sure that your life is in balance, or bring yourself back into a sense of balance. Not that I think that you're terribly, far out of balance, but for whatever reason, the main message for you is making sure that you are in balance right now, bringing yourself back into balance, right? That, it's an important message for you. And I think a part of it is maybe that you're too far into that yin energy, too far into the divine feminine, and not so much into the masculine. So, that you are very creative. I think that you are incredibly probably intuitive and open. You might be very psychic in a certain sense, or be very perceptive and open to things flowing in. But I feel like there's a call towards taking certain actions and certain steps, and that it's not enough to just be open. You also have to push as well, which is never the nicest thing to hear. And I think sometimes I know for me specifically, I tend to swing back and forth a lot, and so it's always frustrating to get this kind of reading and be like, well, I was doing that, and then and then I got a reading telling me to chill out, so I was chilling out for a while, and then I'm saying, oh no, I'm supposed to do stuff. It can get really frustrating when you get stuck in that loop. So I hope that you're not there right now. I've definitely been there, kind of there right now, myself. But I do feel like it's like you got really great ideas with that spring energy. It's like you know where you want to go. Um, you got an awesome plan, I think, even. You're just being asked to implement it a little bit more, to take some concrete steps in that direction. You don't have to do everything and know everything that's going to happen. It's just a matter of, okay, I have some ideas that I'd like to bring into my life. I've been thinking about them a lot. I have them in my mind and imagination built out beautifully. I see what it is, but I don't really know how to move forward. Well, okay, maybe I need to go out and ask for some help. Okay, maybe I need to go and, you know, do an interview with somebody who's doing what I want to do, right? Maybe I should reach out to some people that I actually admire and say, hey, I just want a little piece of advice. Like, I see you're doing some really amazing things, and um, do you have any advice for somebody who's starting out? I don't know. You don't have to do that specifically, but just do some research, or watch interviews of your favorite artists, if they're famous enough for interviews, and, see them talking about their backstory, see what they had to go through to get to where they are, because, nobody exists in a vacuum, right? We don't necessarily see all of the steps and journeys and efforts and struggles and trials and tribulations that go into, um, life of somebody who might be in the media, or might be, famous, or might be whatever, and take this as it resonates. It's for whatever it is for you and your situation. But sometimes it's nice to remember, like, well, like, not everybody's perfect, and actually it's that's okay. Right? Like, not everybody has to be perfect, and maybe I can start to see some of the flaws in the people that I admire, and that might make me feel better, and make me understand that, okay, well, this is going to be a journey, and this is, in order to get to where I want to go, I got to take some steps, right? Um, but I do feel like, yeah, oh, that totally ties into the Six of Pentacles here. It's funny. I was channeling that without realizing, because this talks about asking for help, right? Like, you see that there's this man who's giving to the poor, basically, and not saying that you're poor right now, but it's like, if there's knowledge that you want to gain from somebody, go out and ask for it, right? They might be happy to share their story with you. People like talking about themselves. So, like, if you frame it in the right way, like, don't be like, hey, um, tell me what I need to do, to give me every step, right? But be like, hey, well, what was your life like when you started? Like, how did you get to understand things? What was your thought process? Like, what was your learning process? How did you approach not knowing? And were some of the things that led you into knowing, right? Or how did you approach being at the beginning? And do you have any advice for somebody who's also at the beginning, or whatever? You don't have to be at the beginning, but you know what I mean, right? Although I kind of feel with that spring energy that maybe you are at the beginning. Maybe this is a new beginning towards, an old idea or something like that. And maybe you are being encouraged to take a beginner's mindset, which is, it's not a bad thing, right? It's hard for us sometimes to do that. I just speaking from experience, because it's like, maybe you've been trying really hard to start something for a long time, and, admitting to yourself, well, I'm actually here, I'm still at the beginning here. um, that can seem really challenging and somewhat disappointing, but it doesn't have to be, right? That's kind of what I'm saying. Like, a firm beginner's mindset is saying, well, you know what, I still don't know, that's okay, I don't know. um, what do I need to know to come to a better perspective on that, right? Like, what do I need to do to know things? What do I need to learn still? What are the steps to get me to where I want to go? Okay, I have, in my mind, I know the destination, but, maybe it's not as simple as me just, you know, flicking my wrist and there it is, right? And I, I think the people who are really attracted to these kinds of readings. I know, at least for myself, because I can only speak for myself. You know, for whatever reason, it's like we feel like it should just be the flick of the wrist, you know? Like, I don't know, maybe some universe it is that way. But in the 3D Earth plane, if you want to call it that, or, you know, whatever you want to think of it as, it takes a long time for something to happen. And that alone can be incredibly challenging, right? To just be in this energy of patience is really, really, really deeply frustrating sometimes. But the more patient you can become, and this is a part of the strength energy here, the more patient you can become, the more comfortable you are in being where you are. And then, you know, as things come in, it becomes easier, right? And then, you know, maybe that slower pace actually allows you time to build things up in a way that's best, you know, that in a way that's actually going to work for your life, instead of, if you were to get it all instantaneously, maybe it would be too much too fast and you wouldn't know how to handle it, and you know, it might blow everything out, um and then you'd be in a really tough spot. So really the patience energy, it might be the best for you in the long run. So stay tuned with that patience here. So next up, we have 3 cards from the 1JJ Swiss deck, and we have the Ace of Wands. So there is new inspiration coming here. So it's like, it's not that you don't have all the tools, and it's not that you haven't gone anywhere. It's just, you know, it might take a minute to get to where you're going, and actually, like, that's okay. Take your time with this. You don't have to rush. You have the inspiration here with this Ace of Wands. Um, you got the Five of Pentacles, which is in my mind, and we'll come back to it. It's hard when they don't have the symbols on this particular deck, and you have the Ten of Swords. Okay, I do feel a little bit of that energy here. The Ten of Swords, it's such a tricky card, right? Because it's normally depicted as a person who's got all these swords stabbed into them, and it's like this despair energy, and it's really, you know, really awful being in that awful energy. But the thing about it is, like, one sword would have killed that dude, right? He doesn't have to have 10 sticking out of him. And so it's like, with that 10 swords in his back as he lies dead, it's like, it's a very dramatic card. So it's like, it's not only having something bad happen, but it's like really, really, really wallowing in it. So I'm just relating that back to that energy of, like, you know, when we're at the beginning of a project or a thing and we don't want to be, you know, it can be really easy to wallow in that and be like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this, and I'm never going to get there, and blah, 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 blah. You know, like, don't get lost in all that, right? Like, if you really are at the beginning of a project here, it's okay to be starting something. And, you know, just because you're at the beginning of this doesn't mean that you're at the beginning of literally everything in your life, right? I'm sure you're an incredibly wise and intuitive person. You know, I was getting that intuitive energy at the beginning there. So it's like, you are deeply smart and intelligent, and so it's just about embracing that for yourself. And so, you know, with this Five of Pentacles, you know, maybe you actually have been through some really difficult things in the past, because not only do you have the Ten of Swords here, but you do have the Five of Pentacles, which is um, the sort of dark night of the soul period. So, you know, I feel like you've already been through that based on the cards that have already come up, particularly the Daisy. I feel like you're coming out of that energy, but maybe you've been in that, right? Where you've been at the worst of it. You've been at the lowest of the lows, that you could be in. And now, though, now it's time to come out of that energy. And I think that maybe you've been working really hard on coming out of that energy, and now, you know, things are starting to flow again, and you're starting to get a better understanding of yourself with that Ace of Wands. You're starting to get inspirations again. You're starting to have passion. You're starting to have drive after maybe being depressed for a while. And so now that you're coming out of that depression, you know, maybe there were projects and things you wanted to do before you went into your deepest, darkest, whatever. And maybe those projects and things are coming back to you now. And, you know, you're being encouraged to have the faith and the strength to work on those things, and to remember to develop that patience, right? That it's like, um that it's okay if things take time, that it's okay if you need to take time, you know, that your pace is yours. You don't have to let anybody outside of you dictate the pace of developing any projects or moving forward in anything, right? That pace is yours. If you need to move at a micro snail pace to do things, that's fine. As long as you're doing things, it doesn't matter the pace. The pace is fine. It's just the fact that you're doing the action, right? Don't procrastinate taking steps, but if you want to take your the longest time you need to actually do those steps, that's perfectly fine, and that's actually encouraged, right? Because if you the slower and more methodical that you move, the more put together the thing is. If it's not forced, if it's not rushed, you actually are able to create, you know something that's fuller, that's a more realized thing, whatever this is. If this is a project, an art thing, business, whatever, it doesn't matter. Birthing something into the world, I do feel like that's what you're trying to do. um, and and I think that it's definitely possible, and definitely, it's gonna happen. I feel that, but it's a matter of you actually taking the steps to make it happen, with that, balancing those two things there. um, so if you want to do that, that's great. Just, take your time with it, and that's fine. That's totally fine. Just make sure you're taking the steps. Two cards now from the Wild Unknown Tarot. We have the High Priestess. Yeah, you are an incredibly intuitive person, and I felt that from the very beginning. So it's great that that's popping up here. And we have the Seven of Wands, which is great. I think the Seven of Wands is like finally, it's finally overcoming a situation, right? It's like the 5, 7, and 9 of Wands, I kind of all relate together. I feel like they're a sequence and a series to me. The 5 of Wands is like stuck in a battle, and nobody's going to win. They're all stuck and nobody can get out of it. And nobody's moving forward because you're just in a slog. The 7 is finally somebody's able to come out of it. It's like, yes, you're in a battle, you're all equally matched, but you're actually now able to finally, you're starting to see you're overcoming it. And so I feel like, like with that Dark Night of the Soul card coming up, and, I do feel like maybe you went through some kind of depression, or you went through some kind of dark situation, or some really difficult time in your life. And I feel like now you're finally coming out of it. I feel like now you're finally starting to see the light at the end of that tunnel, and you're starting to get a a better picture of yourself from that too. And these inspirations are all coming back to you, especially with that High Priestess. It's like, it's like the universe wants to work with you to bring something into this world, and it's like you're finally all kind of coming back online with each other, you and the universe together. And remember that it's like, when we co-create with the universe, so it's like you and the universe are equally putting things in. And so it's like you got to be open to receiving those messages, like we were saying with that yin energy, and then you have to be open to taking the action to make it happen. Like, you have to actually put the action into the world. You can't just receive the story or the image or the whatever. You also have to write it or draw it or put it down or build it or do the work for it, right? So anyway, that's mostly my reading for you. We've got one final card. It's an animal oracle card, and it is the hawk energy. Yeah. Okay. So the perspective is huge with the hawk. And one of my favorite symbols in any kind of animal symbolism. I love the hawk. It's about, like, when you're on the ground, right? You can get really caught up in a dramatic situation or something's happening. If people are fighting, you just, all you can see is that. But if you take the hawk's perspective and start flying up, up, up into the sky, the higher you get, eventually those people just look like little dots walking around, right? You don't even know what they're talking about, but you see this vast landscape of the entire, environment around you. And so it's like you're really being encouraged to take that perspective on this as you work, right? Like, don't get lost in these small little details, right? If you have a big giant project that you're working on, take that perspective on it. Be like, okay, well, this is what I'm building. I'm still keeping and holding on to this vision. It doesn't really matter, these small details, like, oh, I need to readjust. Okay, I can readjust. Oh, I need to make this happen. Okay, I can make that happen. Oh, this isn't going to work the way I was expecting. Well, what's my big project still? Oh, I'm still have this big project here. Like, let me keep and hold on to that. And, if I need to readjust, I'll readjust. If I need to move things around, I'll move things around. If I need to work on it, I'll work on it. And so I just feel like that's kind of the perspective to hold on to. If anything ever runs your way and you find any challenges or you find any frustrating things, take that hawk perspective, fly up into the sky about it, and then look at the problem from way, way, way up there. Don't look at it from down here on the ground, right? Look at it from that perspective, and you'll start to see, like, oh, maybe this isn't really something that's that big of a deal. Like, maybe I can change things around here and there, and it's still the thing I'm doing, right? So just keep that in mind. Finally, there's a message on the back of this card that I'm going to read, and it's grow free wildflower. Yeah, grow free wildflower. You got this. So yeah, anyway, pile number 2, I'm going to leave you there. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you didn't catch the intro, we just recently hit 900 subscribers this past week, and I'm so thankful. Thank you to everyone who subscribed. Subscribe if you haven't already. It really does help. As a thank you to you all, I am giving a free reading to one lucky viewer. You can find a link down below in the description to click on that link, fill out the form, and you'll enter into the drawing to win a free half an hour tarot reading from me. It'll be one of my pre-recorded ones. So what it'll be is we'll connect. You can ask any questions that you want me to talk about, or we can do a general reading, and then I will do the reading and film and record it and send it to you. So anyway, pile number 2, thank you so much. If you want to purchase a reading from me, I do have them available. You can find that on my website at junodrum.com, and check out the Instagram right now. It's growing. It's great. That's at Junodrum Tarot. Anyway, friends, have a great day. See you later. Hi there, pile number 3. Welcome to your reading. So this is going to be your reading for just sort of what do you need to know? Open messages on what do you need to hear in this moment. You chose the pile with this awesome little octopus. And so as a symbol, octopus, they are very cunning. Well, they're very adaptive, right? They can get out of any situation. I think that's the thing. Is like they can slip away from any sticky situation. So maybe this reading might be a little bit about if you're in a tough spot right now, or if you're feeling like things aren't working out, or you're a little worried about where you are. The octopus is coming in to let you know, like, hey, you can get out of anything, right? Like, if there's something that's terrible going on, like, you can always get out of it. And I'm not saying that something terrible's going on, but take this as it resonates. If there's anything going on that you might need to walk away from, or you might need to slip away from, that ability is there for you. So let's take a look at the cards to get a better picture of what's going on. We have 3 cards from the Smith-Waite deck, and we've got the 6 of Cups, the Justice card, okay, and the Hierophant. Interesting. So, I feel with the 6 of Cups tends to talk about sort of this sort of like happy memories from childhood. So I do feel like there's some inner child stuff going on here, and the Hierophant can talk about authority figures in our life, especially like teachers, parents, that kind of thing. And with the Justice here as well, so I was feeling that kind of sticky situation thing going on, right? So maybe I do feel like there's something here about your childhood and sort of very with this authority, both the Justice and the Hierophant, there's this feeling of authority here. So it's almost like I feel like you might be in a situation where your subconscious programming from childhood might be getting in the way of you being able to walk away from a situation, right? Like maybe you're in a bind right now and you're in a really tough spot, and there's certain aspects of the way that you grew up and the way that you learned how to deal with the world that are keeping you from seeing that you have more options than you actually do. That's kind of the feeling I'm getting. So take this as it resonates for you and your situation, but it's sort of like you feel like you can't do anything about what's going on in your life, and and that's making you feel maybe stuck or feeling resigned to, I guess this is just the way that it is. But in reality, it's like there's a perspective that you're taking on the situation that is deeply informed by, maybe the way that your parents deal with things, or maybe the way that you feel, is the way that a person must conduct themselves, because that's what being a proper adult is, But in reality, like, if this is about like walking away from somebody, or, leaving a certain relationship, or, walking away from a toxic work environment, or um, putting aside a project that isn't great for you, there might be some hangups, that are keeping you from moving on from something that might actually be harmful for you. And might not actually work out in your favor in the long run. And the only thing that's keeping you there is a sense of obligation, or a sense of duty, or like it's within your own personal duty to continue and maintain a situation, when in reality, like, you got to live your life for you. And there's no shame in doing that either. Like, there's no shame in saying, like, actually, this isn't really how I want to live, this isn't really how I want to be, it's just, what I feel I'm supposed to be doing versus what is actually what is good for me. And so there's just this feeling of like, you know, even if that's the case, you can still leave a situation that's toxic and bad for you, especially if it's hurting you. And in fact, it's better to protect yourself than to, suffer for the sake of duty, right? Like, that's terrible. I mean, I don't know, you live your life the way you want, but, there's just, there's more options in this situation than you actually think you have access to. And I think that's the biggest thing, because a lot of this is probably subconscious, right? The way that we, the way that we operate in the world based on, the way that we grew up, like, that stuff is subconscious by the time we're adults. And so it's like, it's not that it's like you're purposefully choosing to go about things the hard way. It's just that maybe that's all you think you have access to, like I was saying. And in reality, there's a lot more options than you think you have. So let's look. We have one card. I only have one from this one, from the one JJ Swiss deck. And it is the Three of Cups. Yeah, okay. So the Three of Cups talks about harmony and celebration with others. So it's like, maybe this is another thing. Maybe it's like there are actually people who, you know, you want to be friends with, or that you feel you get along with, but then there's this other part of you that's like, well, I shouldn't be with a person like that, or I shouldn't be around somebody like that, right? Because there's a certain judgment going on there, especially with that justice. Justice can talk about sort of judging things and situations, and it's important to judge situations too. Like, I'm not telling you not to, but I feel like there's a certain sense of like, maybe there's some kind of cultural judgment that's going on between you and maybe a certain group of people, or people who act a certain way, or who knows what it is. There's like, on the one hand, you want to be around this kind of person, but then on the other hand, there's something like cultural that's keeping you from being around them, versus like your own inner wisdom, right? And so it's like, there's just this inner conflict I'm feeling within you, based on that kind of subconscious stuff. And in reality, it's like, it's okay to be friends with people who you like, right? It doesn't matter if your family doesn't like them, or like, you can date whoever you want to date. And especially if you're an adult, you this is your life. And maybe it's time to start analyzing those internal things within you that are keeping you from doing the things you actually want to do, and maybe are forcing you to do things you don't want to do. Because if we don't look at those things within us, we'll they'll put us down a path that is going to make us profoundly unhappy, when in reality, like, maybe you're not living the life that you actually want to be living? And have you even asked yourself that? You know, have you asked yourself, well, what do I want? What would make me happy? Not like, what do I think is going to make me happy because this is what people tell me brings happiness, but what do I know about myself enough to know that I like doing X, Y, and Z, or I like being around these kinds of people, versus, versus forcing yourself to do things that maybe aren't so great for you specifically. Not that those things are even bad. It's like it goes beyond a simple good and bad, but it's more like, you know, uh, plenty of people are lawyers and they love that job and that's for them, but that doesn't have to be for you. That's just an example. But like, it's not that it's good or bad to be that. It's just that, well, maybe you're an artist type or you're whatever, and you want to explore different avenues of life and different experiences in this world, and it's important to allow yourself to do that, because if you don't, you might start to feel depressed or stuck or lost, even, without any understanding of who you are and what you want, when in reality, like, those those things are within you to find and explore and cherish, and it just makes life so much better when you can fully be all that you are, and all that you can encompass, and celebrate life with people who feel the same way. And that those people are out there too. With that three of cups, it's like the people who feel the same way about life are out there for you to find and be with. That you don't have to resign yourself to people who, you know, are not great, right? Like, you don't have to force yourself to be with terrible people just because you feel a sense of obligation to be with that person because, I don't know, you decided to date them, like, okay, well, that's fine that you wanted to date that person. And it's also fine if the relationship isn't working anymore and you want to leave. And, that's also fine. People change, people grow apart. Um, that happens. And it's okay, like, it's okay to love your family while at the same time distancing yourself from them a little bit too, if what's going on here. Like, take this, like I said, with a grain of salt. This is a bunch of different situations probably for different people, but um you are in the driver's seat of your life, and I think that's the most important thing to remember. um it's up to you to choose how you want to move through things. It's up to you to decide what you want and who you want to be with and what you want to do. And if, it's important for you with that justice card there, like I was saying, it's important for you to judge that. It's important for you to judge it and not let others judge it for you. If somebody is taking advantage of you, it is well within your right as a human being to say, I don't want to take this anymore and I'm going to walk away because I choose to, right? It's within your power to do so. You don't have to be in a relationship or around somebody or in the orbit of someone who's not good, right? And it doesn't have to be simple good as good or bad, right? Because I think maybe you're the kind of person who can see the beauty in everyone, and I know what that's like. I've been in this situation many, many, many times, but ultimately what I had to learn is that I can see, on the one hand, the intrinsic beauty and humanity of this person and love them very deeply as my fellow human being, while at the same time realizing that they're stuck in a way of thinking and a way of living that is really gonna not be good for me personally. Like, the way that they view reality and life is going to hurt me, and I don't want to feel that anymore. So I'm not going to hang around this person or a person like this anymore, because I see that it's just going to make me just like that person, and I don't want to be that person because I see the difficulty of that situation. I see how they are not I see how they're hurting me, and I don't want to hurt anymore. I have the right as a human being to be healthy. I have the right as a human being to be in peace And if that means I need to leave situations and people to find that peace and that happiness, I am well within my right to do so. And it does not mean that I hate those people. And it does not mean that I think that those people are terrible. And it does not mean that I wish they weren't even here, right? And it doesn't mean that I don't even love them. It just means that I have a right to find my own peace and happiness. And if I can't find that around certain people, I also have the right to walk away. And there's nothing wrong with that. And that's a really tough thing. That's a really tough thing to realize and fully embody. It's a scary thing. It's a really, really scary thing when you are a deeply loving and compassionate person, because you start to think, well, what does that mean about me? Am I really terrible? And no, you're not. You're really not for doing that. It means that you have deep compassion for that person and for yourself, because that you realize that you can't take it. And you recognize that within yourself, and you show yourself a tremendous amount of love and compassion by realizing that and walking away, because you're also realizing that you yourself have the right to happiness. It's not just everyone else, that you yourself are equally a human being on this planet, just like that other person, and you yourself have the right to find the happiness that you might be trying to help them find or try to give them. But maybe it's time to start giving that to yourself as well, and realizing that you have the right to joy and peace and love and contentment, and that you have the right to find the people who feel the same way. That you don't have to surround yourself with people who are nihilistic, who hate life, who hate themselves, who hate everything. And you don't have to resign yourself to being around that and thinking that you have to change them, and thinking that if you can't change them, that makes you a terrible person, right? Because that's not true. Like, everybody has the choice to think about life however they want. And if somebody wants to be in that energy, it's not your job to change them. If they want to live that way, that's totally fine. They can live that way, but that doesn't mean that you have to be around that either, right? That people's choices about life have consequences, and if they want to live their life that way, that's fine, but that also means that maybe people don't want to be around them as much, and that's also fine. Right? That's also fine. There's no one way to live life. And that was a huge tangent that I clearly needed to talk about for myself, so I hope that it resonates. That's just a bunch of stuff that I've had to learn the hard way. I've had to learn the hard way. I've had to leave so many friendships, so many relationships, people that I loved so deeply, I still love, but I just see that I can't be around them, and that's just who I am and where I'm at, and like it feels terrible, but it's also there. It's also there, and there's nothing I can do about that. I had to walk away, and that's just sometimes life puts you there. Sometimes life puts you there where you're in a situation where it's like, well, what do you want to choose here, right? Like this situation, this relationship, it will not change. It's going to continue this way. This person sees you in a way that you don't want to be seen anymore, and it's not up to you to dictate how people see you. Like people are going to see you how they're going to see you. But if you are the only way that you can see yourself fully is through the eyes of others, which is how I used to live. I don't live that way anymore, but I used to. Um, you know, you surround yourself with people who think so poorly of you, you start to think that way about yourself. And, nobody deserves that. Nobody deserves that. You're allowed to walk away from those people. You really are. I have 3 cards from the Wild Unknown Tarot here. We've got the 4 of Wands. Okay, so, and I do feel like you're moving out of this now. I do feel that with that 4 of Wands. Or you're starting to see a new way forward, because it's homecoming. It's about coming back to yourself. That's what this. Yeah. So it's like when you walk away from those kinds of people and that kind of toxicity and you start to come back into your own self again, you start to come back to yourself and you start to remember who you are, who you were before those people, yeah, but also just who you are in general. Where it's like, oh, I was seeing myself through all of these terrible lenses of people who just, they don't know me. They didn't really know me. They didn't know my whole story. They were seeing some weird half quarter picture of what I can be and who I am, but I know who I am, and I don't want to be around somebody who thinks so poorly of me anymore. Like, screw that. No. I want to think good of myself again because like I deserve that. It's okay to think good of you. It's okay to 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 celebrate the positive, wonderful, beautiful aspects of yourself because if you don't celebrate that, if you can only find that from others, it's never going to be satisfying enough and it's just going to bring you down. We've got the Daughter of Swords, which is the Page of Swords in most decks. So I do feel that this like new perspective is coming to you with that Page of Swords. So it's like let this be a way for you to start thinking about things differently. And maybe you already have a bit, maybe you've already started to think about this and you've already been working on this. Um, but if you haven't yet, and if you're still stuck in these relationships and these situations, realize that you don't have to stay that way. You don't have to stay there. You can leave that situation. It's doable. It's possible. I've done it. It's hard. It's probably the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. But do I regret it? Not in an instant. I am so much better off now. I feel so much better about myself, about life. I'm finally optimistic and happy again after being so depressed, like so thoroughly depressed for so long. Um, I would not change that for an instant. For an instant. The final card is the Six of Cups. Okay, so you have the Six of Cups twice here. So yeah, so it's like and then with that happy memories from childhood as well, it's like it realigns you to like reconnecting with your inner child is huge in this situation. And I said that at the beginning, but now that I've really gotten so deep into what's going on in this reading, I feel like with that inner child energy, it's like by letting go of these relationships of people who are telling you who you're supposed to be and all this stuff, blah, 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 you're really kind of going to be able to connect back into the you that you knew you were as a child, right? Like, I feel like in childhood, we have a surprisingly great picture of ourselves because we haven't experienced so much of other people telling us what we need to be, right? We still have that wonder and that beauty and that imagination and that like big, big, big openness to the universe itself as children. And so I feel like, by allowing yourself to have this new way of thinking, by removing yourself from situations that aren't great for you and from people who aren't good for you, you'll start to be able to come back into yourself and start to realize who that person is, and you'll be able to connect to your inner child and maybe heal some wounds and things from your past because you'll be more aligned with those beautiful aspects of you, and you won't have to feel this need and necessity to make yourself into something when you can just be you and like let that be enough. It's such a liberating thing to be there, as somebody who for so long was trying to be everything for everyone and nothing to myself. Um, yeah, it's no way to live. It's no way to live. It really isn't. It's not worth it. Not at all. So, final card comes from this sort of animal deck that I have, and it's the mountain lion. Yeah, so be that fierce, ferocious, have that courage and that lion energy with this mountain lion here. Like, you have that ability, tap into that. You are powerful. You are so, so, so strong, pile number 3. Um, Tap into that power and that strength. If somebody is pushing you around, you do not need to be there, and I'm not telling you to fight them. I mean, defend yourself if you have to, but sometimes the most powerful fight that you can have is to just walk away. You could just leave. You can leave, and there is nothing that they can do about that. If you're in an abusive relationship and somebody is abusing you in any capacity, mental, psychological, physical, whatever, if that is happening, You do not have to put up with that. You can leave that in an instant and, F that person. F that person. And if they're sweet and they're like, oh, well, they don't know what I'll do without you, or whatever, or if they're extorting you based on saying, like, I will hurt myself if you leave. I don't know why I'm going to live. I'm not going to be able to survive, screw that. And that's not for everybody. That's just for some people. But you know what? Like, that is a very deeply insidious and terrible thing for somebody to do because, like it's like that's like such a manipulative and awful thing, right? And so it's like, you know what? Like, no, you don't have to put up with that. And it's not on you if they do harm themselves and you leave. That's not you. That's them. That's their choice. That's their decision. That's not you. That's not you. And it is not your responsibility and it is not your fault. And I know that's not for everybody, but somebody needs to hear that. And it's really important for you to know that. Like, it is so important for you to know that it is not your fault if somebody else is, being a jerk and pushing you around and maybe convincing you that it's your fault that they're a terrible, manipulative, horrible, evil person. That's not you. That is them. And screw that person. Like, seriously, if you are stuck in that situation, screw that person. Wow, that was powerful. So somebody needs to hear that and reach out to people as well. If you need help, reach out. Help is out there. There are people who have been through terrible situations with people before, and there are strong, um, helpful people that want to help you, and there might be resources available to you. So just look into that. Um, like I said, that's not everybody who's watching this, but some people who are watching this do need to hear that. Um, wow, that's powerful. So I hope that you're doing okay, pile number 3. I really, really do. Um, if you need to reach out to me specifically, you can find info on my website. You can talk to me directly. Like, please, if you need somebody, like, I'm here. Like, even just not even for a reading. Like, if you just need to talk, like, find me on my website. We can talk, please. Um, wow. Uh, anyway, pile number 3. That's my reading for you, though. I'm gonna leave you there. Um, Let me read from the back of this card, though, because you have one message and it says, always be on the lookout for the presence of wonder, E.B. White. Yeah, always be on the lookout for the presence of wonder. With that inner child stuff, it's like being in this beautiful sense of childhood wonderment, right? Like being in that sense of childhood joy and bewilderment and curiosity and allowing yourself to be back in that, being in a sense of play and being in a sense of joy, and that you deserve that, telling yourself that you deserve those things. You really do. Yeah. So anyway, pile number 3, that's my reading for you. I hope that it resonates. Let me know in the comments what you think either way. I do love hearing from everybody. If you did not check out the intro, we just recently reached 900 subscribers, which thank you so much for everybody who's subscribed. I'm going to be doing a giveaway as a thank you. So if you find on my website, or there's a link below in the description section where you can fill out a form and enter into a drawing to win a free 30-minute reading from me. So fill that out. Join the drawing. Oh, I didn't tell any of these others, but I'll put a little blurb at the bottom. The deadline, I'm going to be announcing the winner next week. So you only have a week to do it. So if you're catching this up until I don't know, September 20 something, 2021, just a week from when this was posted. Look at that. So if you're finding this way in the future, don't worry. I'm going to be doing way more readings. So please subscribe anyway. At 1,000, I'm going to be doing a ton of fun things. So check that out. Anyway, I also have readings available on my website. You can find that at www.junodrum.com. And check out the Instagram. We got a bunch of fun stuff up there. That's at Juno Drum Tarot. Anyway, thank you so much for tuning in, and I will see you later. Bye.